Hello and welcome back. This is ProTaleDev back with another Dungeon Farm Tycoon game, and hopefully this is going to be the last development related video on this game. Essentially, I want this to be the last thing before the end of the year. I want this game to be up onto itch.io and I kind of want it finished. So essentially I set myself a deadline of November, between the end of November to mid-December. Unfortunately, it's gone past the 15th of December, so it's past halfway through December. Luckily, there's a lot finished on it. It's very, it works fine. Everything's working. The only thing is that I wanted to do one extra level where you would be able to do basically the hardest objectives in the game. Didn't get time for it, but we do have some levels to work with. So, I'm going to go over the fixes first, and then we'll get into the changes and then the new stuff. So previously, inside the Tycoon, what would happen is, if you remember in the last video, I may have cut it out, I'm not sure, but what happened is that when you ran into an object inside of the dungeon, when you've placed it, if your character had ran into it while they're adventuring, the object would spin around. It was an obstacle, and it would spin around, basically completely break the dungeon and cause everything to fall apart. They're a completely static object now. They're not going to move, they're not going to cause any issues, so that's completely fixed. The next thing is that the options menu / pause menu has now been finished, so now you can restart the level whenever you want. You can quit to main menu and you can resume. This was partly done really early on, but I don't know if I showed it that much. If I did, I didn't really show the restart because I didn't include the restart button. It was just the resume and menu. So yep, you can now restart the level whenever you want. Also, the custom dungeons build title label tracking for objectives is now fixed per level. So see if I can show you this. Oops, on my other screen. Let me just quickly bring it over. Okay, so what would happen is, on each level they'd be given a specific name. So if we go into stage 1, you've got the starting line goals. Basically it's the name of the objective. That wasn't working before, now it's fixed. So we've got dungeon preppers as the next one. The third level is dungeon architect, and then the final level is build to success. So they are now fixed, and you'll see that in a minute. Okay, so those are the fixes. There are a few other issues, like selection points now appearing in dungeons when it's night time. Things like after pressing a certain button, the build UI closes without updating. Slime spawning is slightly off the mark. These slight little issues and bugs I just don't have time to fix right now. Now we move on to the changes. The first thing is the fact that the monster's respawn timer is now extended instead of being an instant spawn. So it's about 15 seconds, 15-20 seconds you have to wait now for a monster to spawn. So you can't just farm the same one, you do have to move around it. It's going to be a bit boring to just wait for the same monster, so you might as well have multiple. Another one is rarity drops for crystals is now only 30% as opposed to 50%, so now it's much rarer to get a crystal. I've redone a lot of the objectives for these dungeons, for these levels, and I've restructured them a little bit to try and make them a little bit more balanced. Some of them were just too extreme, some of them were too easy, so I've rebalanced them, redone them, especially for the new levels. Of course, for the new levels, they have brand new objectives. The monster's gold has also been dropped and now to be rebalanced, because before it was just way too high. You could get up to 100-200 gold from killing the young devil, and that's just way too extreme, especially for the first monster. And this is just in general, all the other monsters also, the money was just too high. So I've significantly lowered it by a massive amount. I've increased the spawning of the NPCs with rating, so now they'll be much more quicker, they'll spawn a lot more often with higher rating. So that one's pretty explanatory. Next is I've increased the chance of an NPC gaining more gold in dungeons to spend in a shop. This was an obvious one because there was a lot of issues with NPCs just not earning enough gold. Rating for overall objects has also been lowered because it was still a little bit high. It's only been lowered a little bit more, but I think now it works a lot better. You really have to work to get your rating up now a lot more, but it isn't too crazy like it originally was. Okay, so those are all the changes, and the reason I've not been showing any gameplay is partly because there'll be a lot of sound going on, because there's a bunch of new sound, new effects, a bunch of new ambient sound, so I want to show that off now. So the first things first is we've got the main menu. So you should be able to hear the music. So this is the main menu, menu music. Of course, we've got the controls, we've got the credits, and we've got the little menu here, so it's slightly different than before. I might even put ourselves in large view just for this. Okay, so when we're ready, we'll go straight into the level, and you'll first notice the dialogue manager.
Welcome, Island Overseer, to the Lost Islands. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Eric, your guide to the islands. The guild has informed me of your arrival. The Adventurers Guild wants you to turn these islands into a hub for dungeon exploration. There is already a dungeon on this island that is bringing in new adventurers, but we are not earning anything until we build infrastructure around the dungeon. The guests who arrive are earning gold from the dungeon and simply leaving. The dungeons bring the guests, but shops help fund construction.
So what you're hearing right now is the actual dialogue. It's inside this game, hopefully it's playing in the background. You should be able to hear it, and basically it's explaining what you need to do. It's kind of giving you an introduction to how things work. Okay, so now with the manager over, the introduction, essentially what that is that each one of these tutorial islands, so the island that looks a lot like this, will essentially introduce you to what you need to do. They'll give you a rough idea of the rating. Well, for example, we can just look at this one, and it talks a little bit of the rating. It talks about the food, the water, the housing, and the shops, and these are all the objectives that are related to it. Essentially, each of the first three levels are just an introduction, a tutorial essentially, and the final island is kind of where you got to really put your expertise out there and try and build what you need. So what we got here to start off with is that we've got our basic missions, which has also been toned down and rebalanced as mentioned before. I can quickly show you that the pause menu, here it is, it's got a restart, it's just as you just saw. The dialogue again didn't show in the last video because it had errors, but it is all fixed now, it's all showing. You can see it on the top left, it's coming up with your advisor, and you can obviously read that or listen to the voice and just carry on playing. You can deconstruct and reconstruct, and there's lots of new sound effects. So to go down the list, first of all, we've already talked about the dialogue manager. We've got a deconstruct and construct smoke effect. So if I quickly destroy this, you can hear the smoke and the deconstruct sound, the rubble crash. And what we can do here is we can I can just demonstrate with this shop, because that's one of the objectives. I can quickly demonstrate that we also have a construct sound. So with that construct sound, we also that comes on everything. So every item in the game and that's controlled in the placement script. Essentially is what you're going to have with the construction and deconstruction for pretty much everything. So we also have the ambient sounds and music for, as I mentioned before, menu, but obviously the overworld. So what we have here, we do have another song that plays for the dungeon, but I couldn't finish it in time. So it's another thing I didn't get to finish. But essentially, at the moment, we just have this peaceful music while you're building, while you're playing. But we do have some ambient sound for when we're in the dungeon, which is like soft wind and creepy little tapping sounds. We have lava sounds as well. We also have things like effects for when the adventurer completes a task, which you're seeing here. So while these guys are going over here, you'll notice that there'll be these little stars. The stars means that they've completed the dungeon. They've successfully completed the dungeon. What you'll see over here in this shop is that if they complete it, they'll actually get coins. So you'll see these effects, which are coins, going on, and then hopefully we can get a house down in a second, and you'll be able to see the effect from those. So there we go, we can put a house down right there. and we can watch and wait for that. And essentially, while we're waiting, we can talk about the new labels. So again, the labels are just these up here, the starting line goals that I mentioned before that are now fixed. And what I'm going to do is just going to spawn a bunch of wells, and just to produce enough water and food. This will increase the happiness overall. Let's do that. And what we're going to see now is they should be able to go to the house, so you can see the effect. Okay, and someone's just gone into the shop, so they should come out in a second, and the happiness should be high enough with food and water that they'll go to this house. There we go. So we now have someone that has gone into the house, and in a second you should see hearts appear. There we go, so you just saw some hearts, and hearts means that they are happy, so they have just reset, they're rested, and now they'll head back into the dungeon with feeling more rested, a bunch more experience, new equipment from the shop, so their equipment rating is higher, and so they'll have a higher chance of surviving. So I think this guy is the same guy, and he's now going to buy more to increase his chance of survival, which should increase his happiness as well, which should mean that he'll go to this house again and increase it even more. And this is how you keep people and keep them surviving, earning more gold. This person will now have much more gold on him to spend on higher level shops. So the idea, there you go, is to try and keep these guys so that, and get the highest level veterans so that they're willing to spend more in the higher level shops. Anyway, so next thing is we can now go into a dungeon and I can show you the shops. Oh, actually, before I do that, let's talk about the trail that I've got. So I've added this little trail onto the dot. It's not as defined before, so it's a little bit, the alpha has been lowered a little bit, and we've added a little bit of a trail on the mouse. I think it looks quite nice. It adds a little bit of magic aspect to it. It's nothing new, nothing crazy, just a quality of life thing that I added. Yeah, I just thought it just adds a little bit more to it. So anyway, let's go into a custom dungeon. Now, of course, we can't do that with as we are. We have to go into another level and to be able to do it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's quickly place 2 houses, another shop, and then we'll quickly, with all of our gold, we should be able to get the objectives complete and move on to the next level. So let's do that right now. Food and water is already completed. Let's add in another shop right here, and then let's add in another home. Now you'll notice all of these X's are on here. This is so that you can't use them. They're completely locked during this tutorial, and more does get unlocked as we go. So there we go, we've done that. And what you'll see is that while this is a little bit of a bug, you can see the text shortly after. Wishes you good luck on the next one, because there is more to do. So then we move on to the next level. Okay, so the next level is the same island. You have a bunch more stuff now. It does a little bit of an introduction, talks about what you need, introduces you to some more mechanics like dungeons, increasing population size, upgrades that you can give to buildings, and then the crafting system as well as production. He also talks about production for lumber mills and for mines. Okay, so now as you can see, we've unlocked the production section, and we've also got a dungeon that we can build. So what we want to do is we want to quickly again give ourselves a ton of gold. It will be the easiest way of doing this, and then we can just easily progress through this. Again, I've done this naturally without any help. I've gone and so it is absolutely doable, and I think it's a fair amount of time that you can spend on each one.
I want you upgrade a house building.
And all we need to do is we place one dungeon right here. As a quick rundown, I am going through each level to give a quick rundown, essentially. We can add a little bit more water, add some more food, and then what we want to do is we want to add some production. So let's add some production. We want 5 in total, so we're going to have to extend this out. Which is fine by me. And then let's add a bunch of iron mines right here, and that's that done. Now we should produce a bunch more ores, which you can see, resources, which are right here, materials. That should gradually progress. We can use the inspection tool, of course, to be able to see how long they've got left to produce. And another thing that was mentioned was the upgrades. Of course, in order to upgrade, we're going to need materials. Now, the only thing we have is a lumber mill and iron ore, which means the only upgrade we can actually get is the house. So, for example, I've just clicked on the dungeon, and as you can see, we actually need silver and gold to do that. If we click on a store, we actually need copper and iron. But because we only have iron and we only have wood, the only one we can do is actually this very basic house, which only needs wood and food and water to produce. The iron is also something we have to make for a dagger, so that's where the iron comes in for this mission. So essentially what we do is we upgrade once. It does close off, which is a bug, but I don't have time to fix it. And then we can click on it again, and obviously it hasn't upgraded because we don't have enough food or water yet. So it's still level 0 out of 3. So we just have to wait and see if we can get enough. Shouldn't take too long. We can give ourselves more water if we need. Of course, more people and more people staying means more water and more food is going to be used. So something you got to keep on top of. So let's add a couple more in while we have the money. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to increase our rating by a lot. So let's just put in a bunch of plants around, a bunch of scenery, just to increase our overall rating. Not by much, obviously, but it should be enough just to increase it to 200, which will get us to the next stage of spawning quicker. Yep, there we go. So now they should spawn a little bit quicker. We should get a little bit more by this being in here, and we should hopefully be producing quite a lot. Let's have a look. Yeah, we got quite a lot of stuff. Another thing we can do is, of course, we go into our blacksmith forge, and we do have our potions accessible, but we actually need crystals to make them, which is actually going to be one of the missions in the 4th level. What we got here is we can make some daggers. We need to make 1 dagger, which is easy enough. We can do that right now. And it does take a little bit of time. The whole point is that you can come back to it, manage it, maybe build something, go into a custom dungeon, and then come back and it's crafted. That's kind of the whole point of this, is that you can take your time on it. We can also upgrade one of these. By doing this, this will progress us to the next level. So we have enough food now, we have enough water, we also have enough gold. It's only 5 gold, and we have enough wood, so we can upgrade this. I'm going to do that in a second. There we go, we've crafted that. We can check our characters and we can see that we got 1. We can equip it, of course. Let's actually upgrade our house now to level 1. And again, it's bugged a little bit, but you'll see text shortly after, basically congratulating you and telling you to progress. So of course we can click this button and it'll progress to the next level. Okay, so now we're on the next level, and the objectives are going to be slightly more difficult. So we have the Dungeon Architect. This is the last level as a tutorial. So now it's introducing us to a custom dungeon entrance. We now have to make a custom dungeon and earn ourselves some golden crystals. So now we get to play around with this. So this is unlocked now. We also have a pre-built area which is producing enough rating for us, some gold. It's essentially self-sustaining while you can work on your dungeon. Of course you can increase it as much as you want, but ultimately it's you can just start producing a dungeon now. The whole point is that this is teaching you how to do that. So let's just put it here. we get ourselves a castle. Took 150 gold, but we should be able to now just click on this and go into our editor. And so inside here, you're already familiar with how this works. If you've been watching previous videos, you'll know that you can just click on any one of these and you can build your dungeon in this editor. Now, a big thing to mention is that I've redone the labels for these shop items because they were completely broken before. Only the connectors shop labels were working. So what I mean by labels is down here. So basically their name of the item when you highlight over them. Only these were all working, and none of these were. And so they're now fixed. They're complete. So now you can click on. You can just hover over these and figure out what they are. So lava pit, grand hall, the right one, left one, toxic river, 4-door. We have the open entrance. We have the grand flame hall and the green diamond. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to show those. I'm just going to do something like this, just to give myself plenty of room. We've been given quite a lot of gold to start off with, and then we can just place this down. Another thing is this is bugged out. It's broken. I mentioned it in the last video that it's broken, and I just haven't had time to fix it. So it looks like it's going to have to stay like that for a while. Then what we have here is we still need to get up to 8 rooms. That's the objective. So let's build this up a little bit because I don't want to extend this too much. Let's actually have a place like right here. And we obviously need to make sure we have enough gold to be able to spawn in a monster. So let's spawn in the most easiest one, the very basic one, to kill. But it'll drop very little gold and not that many crystals. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in maybe 1 or 2 more rooms. Let's just add in these, and then add these together. And that gives us our 8 rooms. So we've got a basic dungeon now. We can now start earning some crystals and gold. Of course, we need to make sure we have a dagger. Luckily, we still have the dagger from the previous level. I actually gave you 5 just to make sure you do have enough. You can equip it, and we can go straight in. So once we're in, we can scroll or use our number pad to, or our number keys to be able to choose. We can go and hunt around, and of course we have our cursor, which again was a bug. I don't really know. It's not too distracting, I don't think. It's kind of nice to have almost like a wisp with you, but ultimately it's not supposed to be there, this cursor, but I don't have time to fix it, unfortunately. And so what we can do is we can run around here, we can go into here, and we can start fighting. And these guys are insanely weak at the moment, but they actually should be a little bit stronger, but I don't have time to fix that either. Now I'm just out of time completely. As you can see, it took them a little bit of time to respawn there. There's no way of healing without any potions, so you're really going to struggle without them. Luckily, this guy is incredibly weak, but really slow to respawn. So you can earn a little bit of gold, hopefully. It's hard to determine how much gold you're earning because you're also earning gold from your overworld. But there you go, I just killed him. I got 5 gold. Again, I'm not 100% sure if it could be the timing. Now, we still need to get a couple more crystals. We've earned a couple. There's one. And we'll just wait for this monster to just keep respawning. After this, unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of time because we need to earn more gold. So I'm just going to cut here to when we actually have the objective complete. Okay, we're almost done with 100 gold. It's actually taken quite a while, about 5 minutes, which is quite a long time just for 100 gold. And if you think that some of these rooms are worth, to construct a 75 gold each, the lighting crystals are 75, and a lot of the buildings, like the custom dungeon, another custom dungeon is 150, plus upgrades. I don't think 100 gold in 5 minutes is that much. Which is fine because this guy's lower level. Essentially, I'm at 92 out of 100 gold, but I'm actually only on 6% health, so I'm actually really close to dying. So you're actually going to hear me, hopefully you'll hear the death sound from my player. At the moment I'm trying to be ultra careful just to try and make sure I earn that gold. I'm just going to go in, and if I die, I die. Oh, 2% gold. Oh, but very, very close. So I'm actually going to die while getting the last bit of gold, I think.
You are ready to manage your own island now. I am going to give
Okay,
you
yep,
more
so I definitely did
challenging tasks
die.
for the next islands.
This time the
It is up
text
to
is
you to make
showing
the
at
island a
least.
success. How you do that
So we're
is
ready
your
to
decision.
manage our
Good
own
luck, overseer.
island. Okay, so now we have our own island, our own
Click on
custom
the dungeon
island.
to
It just
enter
comes
the
with a
editor and
dungeon
begin
and
constructing the
25
dungeon
gold.
piece by piece.
And
rooms and
all we need to
connected
do is
pieces
we
have a
now need to
connection
make it a
icon on the
success.
sides
Now I'm
which
not going to
need
go
to
through
overlap
this,
with
of
other
course.
pieces.
I don't think I need
They
to.
will turn green if
It's
connected,
completely up
but
to
it is
you
up to
how
to
you
slot
go
them
about
in
this, how
perfectly.
you customize
Do
it,
not
where you
forget to
place
add
things,
monsters so that you
and
can
ultimately
kill
how
them
your
and earn
dungeon
gold and
turns out.
obstacles to help avoid
Completely
damage.
up to you to make this
All
a
monsters
success.
have their own
The
weaknesses and
differences are
attacks,
that in
and it
this
is
you
up
have
to
to
you to
require
figure
a
it out.
600
The hint is
rating,
the effect
so
giving
much
monsters
higher.
information when they
You also
spawn.
need to upgrade
When you have
20
finished your
buildings, so you
dungeon,
need a
you have
lot of
monsters ready
resources,
to
a lot of
hunt.
different
Exit the
things
dungeon
to make
editor
this
and exit
better.
adventure.
You're going to need to craft
Do not
15
forget to
potions
equip your
and then
weapons in the
25
character inventory.
weapons.
Materials
So
like
ideally
crystals
different
can be found from
weapons,
dungeon
and this is
will
to
drop
encourage
at
you to get
random.
different weapons,
The
better
higher level the
weapons.
monster,
But
the
of
more
course
health
we
and
have
damage
so
they
many
will
more
do.
weapons and
This
potions
means
that
more gold dropped and
can
better
be made
chances of earning
with
rare
higher ratings, so
crystals.
hopefully you can explore that a lot more. And then we have the final thing, which is gain 1000 gold from defeating monsters in a custom dungeon. Just as the same as before, and essentially this is just to encourage you to carry on. Now the weapons and potions do have their own sound effects. I didn't show off any potion sounds, so it'll be up to you to find it. Hopefully you did hear the death sounds and some of the sounds inside the dungeon. There's a few extra things that are in here that I haven't talked about that you'll have to just discover for yourself. Ultimately I did want one more level after this to show things like the population and your overall gold holding amount and things like that, but I've just run out of time, so ultimately this is what we have, and I'm gonna have to just leave it at that. So this is going to be the last development for this game, at least at the moment. I haven't decided if I'll do anything more with this specific game. I might do a similar game but in a 3D environment, basically rebuilding on everything that I've learned, because I kind of wanted to do that in the first place but just didn't have the resources for it. I'm going to be uploading one more video after this that is going to be sort of a breakdown of the whole entire year, everything I've worked on, and kind of like a development log of my overall development for the year. I did that last year, so I'm going to do it this year. That'll probably come out roughly New Year's, and then after that I'll be going on a bit of a break for a month or so, maybe over a month, just while I try and get some things sorted out in the real life, try and get some things fixed, and also I need to work on the website. So overall I'll be taking a little bit of a break after that. When I come back, we'll be probably working on something new, or maybe even something revamping some previous things I've worked on. Ultimately this game has been a really great experience. I don't think I've ever worked on something so I don't think I've worked on something like this that requires so much code and so much work. Of course tycoons and simulators always do, and so this was a great experience in general. I should have this game uploaded and ready to be played on itch.io in the next few days, so I'm thinking towards maybe Christmas-ish, so maybe just on Christmas or the day after. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm hoping for it to be roughly that time, and then it's something I don't have to worry about during that time. I can basically just spend time with my family at Christmas and after, and I don't have to worry about this game. So this has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you for the next video where I talk about everything that's happened in this previous year as a final farewell.